What's up, guys? Welcome back to another exciting upload on the channel. Figured we'd get into this install. We got a camping trip in 2 weeks. We got to get this particular part on the truck and get it ready. And with that being said, let's get into it and explain what we're going to be doing today. So I'm extremely excited about this install. I've been wanting this particular rack for a very, very long time. When we had the Tacoma, it was my initial plan was to get the upTOP Overland Retrax rack system mounted on the truck, and that was going to be the new setup 2.0 on the Tacoma. However, we're going to do this on the Raptor here in the same fashion. So already you guys have seen the upload. We have the Retrax bed cover with the T-slot rails. This is how we're going to be mounting our upTOP Overland mid-height rack to the truck. And that is also going to house our roof nest condor. That is our brand new tent. I'm very excited to get that going as well. I think in this upload I'm going to include the installation and the install of the upTOP Overland rack, as well as mounting the roof nest particular tent, the condor tent, onto the rack, and show you that process as well. So just a little bit of an explanation of what this rack is really going to offer for us. So it's a mid-height rack, and you can choose on their website if you want to do a mid-height rack or a high rack. They're taller rack. There's no short height option for the Raptor, the F-150. However, for the Tacoma, I know when I was looking months back, they do offer a shorter version than the mid-height for the Tacoma, and probably a few other models of trucks. So with that being said, I'm going to include all that information in the description, like what height particularly the mid-height is and what height the higher one is, and as well as measure this in person and show you on the video how much actual height we're going to get for the rack, being the mid height option. So really, with all that being said, it's going to offer a modular type rack to sit on top of our bed cover here, so we can still access the controls and the functions and to open our bed cover to keep everything inside the truck safe while even having a rack on the truck. And that's really like the best invention ever. No, it's not the cheapest. It's definitely not the cheapest. You guys know these covers range from pretty much from $1,000 to $2,000. This one particularly was around $1,300. The rack itself being another $1,000 or so. So do the math. You're well over $2,000 in a nice setup. But for what we are doing and the way I use the truck, I think it'll be nice. It's definitely gonna have the nice feeling of having the rack with the tent and all the other accessories while still having a bed cover and being able to access all your stuff in the back of the truck. All right, so before we start unboxing the upTOP Overland rack in the box there, I just want to show you guys how really I think it's going to be mounting. While using these T-slot rail systems on the Retrax cover, the brackets are going to literally sit on top of the cover here, on top of the rail, and that's how the rack is going to mount itself on the bed cover while still maintaining the function of the actual cover itself. So at this point, I just want to, throw a huge shout out upTOP Overland. If you go on the website, they say 2-week lead times. I get this thing in like less than a week. So props to them for getting the racks out fast. And look at how good the, shipping was. Everything is like nice and packed tightly and wrapped good. So yeah, I'm very happy with the way they handled their shipping. As well as you guys know, in the COVID era and in the current era, I guess if you want to say, the lead times on racks and parts like this are still a bit crazy. And the fact that these guys got this thing out to me as quick as they did, I can't be any more gracious for that. So yeah, so let's get all these parts out, lay them all out, and see how we're actually going to install this rack to the Retrax cover. Now, I just want to remind you guys before we keep going that if you guys don't have a Retrax bed cover, they also make bed rack options for trucks, or your options that don't include the Retrax. So they have a regular option that will mount to the F-150, or they have the Retrax option. So they offer a few different options as far as their racks, and as well as the heights you can choose from. So short, mid, or high tier racks, you can choose either 3 or how you mount it to the truck as well. All right, so we got everything laid out and out of the box. The box is now empty, and right off the bat, guys, the quality is phenomenal, like absolutely phenomenal. These look like your supports that are going to be sitting on the bed cover on the T-slot rail, and the powder coat is just, you can tell it's really stout, as well as the design and the engineering and the build quality of the actual piece itself. We have, let's see, 3, 4, 5, we have 6 supports, as well as 3 of these really hefty and really well-built crossbars here. And this seems to be the upTOP mounting system, as far as if you want to mount accessories on the sides of these things, on the sides of the truck. These look like to be those low panels, if they call them that, to mount to those. So, and as well as a big bag of hardware. Here's a note on the bag. So yeah, another thing is, a lot of companies include a lot of hardware that you may not need. So upTOP made sure they put a note on there. If you guys have extra bolts and stuff, 99.9% out of 100, meaning you probably didn't miss anything. It's just extra hardware they gave you. So with that being said, we're going to figure out how to actually install this to the rack and get into building this thing. All right, so the first step of what I'm going to do is mount these supports. And on the supports, you'll see 2 slots on the bottom. And the way I'm going to do this is using the included like T-nuts here, these slotted square nuts that are going to be fitting inside your track here on the Retrax cover, right? And using these in this bag, anyways, for me, for the TRUSS rack, it's the 9000.9 bag of hardware that comes with these size bolts and these washers. And I think it looks like a 7/16. I'll find out exactly what size this is when we actually mount it to the truck. However, what we're going to be doing is just pre-installing 2 in each of these supports and leaving it pretty loose so that you can take the support up here and actually insert it into the bed cover without it being not enough room there, so we can snug it up after. So we'll leave them all loose and then actually throw all our supports on where we need them to be and build the rack that way. Alright, so we have all the hardware pre-installed into our supports here. What we're going to be doing next is just throwing them in the T-slot rails and leaving them, kind of loose so that we can adjust afterwards, further away from the cab or towards the back of the truck, wherever we want to mount our crossbars. Alright guys, so we got 3 of them installed on this side and not tight, leave them loose. And what I'm going to do is just move them down sort of where I'm going to be wanting my crossbars in the general vicinity. We can move these after. Once we have the whole thing assembled, we can actually move probably the whole assembly around to where we want them. So roughly, we'll go with that, and that'll give us a good idea of the height. Look at that, that's a mid-height. So now, this is like 3/4 of the way up the height of the actual cab on the Raptor here. Just to give you guys a little bit of an idea of the actual height. So with that being on the truck, let's go ahead and keep going with this install. Alright guys, so with the TRUSS supports on the truck, They're still loose. I haven't really snugged them up yet, so we can move them around. We're gonna move into installing the load sides of the rack. And now there's really only one way that these can go on. You're gonna have 2 sets, so 4 panels in all, 2 for each side, obviously. And the way they're gonna go together is sort of like this. So if you pay attention to the groove here, I'll show you in a second in a different shot, but this on the back of the tailgate, assuming this is the back of the truck, this is towards the front, this whole assembly like this is gonna go and mount on the rack here. And as you can see, the 2 holes you're gonna utilize are these holes right here on the panel, right? And then one of those on the slot there is gonna get mounted to this hole, and the other one is gonna get mounted to this hole, and then these 2 holes are gonna be these on the end here. And we're gonna show a better shot on how this mounts, and we're gonna pick the hardware. I believe it may be load bar. Nope, that's probably not it. TRUSS cargo rack. That could be it. 6-leg. TRUSS Trax to armor. I believe this is the ones we're gonna be using for that. So what we're gonna be using for hardware here is the bag, for me anyways, the 9000.2 bag. And that's gonna involve a bunch of these bolts, washers, and lock nuts. And the way I'm gonna be mounting these panels to the actual strut supports there is gonna be throwing the bolts through the hole with no washer on this side, followed by the washer and the lock nut on the other side of the bracket here. So the tools I'm going to be using to snug those load panels up is those Allen heads are for me anyways, a 5mm Allen head with a 3/8 drive ratchet and a 1/2" drive ratchet wrench to hold the back of the lock nut so we can snug it up. Alright, so now we're going to do the same, mounting the second panel. If we pick this panel up and roughly show you how it should go, with that panel already snugged up, this panel should go like that. The bolt goes in the bottom, and obviously you'll move that last support in to bolt the last 2 holes. Alright guys, so we have this side completely on. Again, these are loose. That way we can mount our load bars and establish where we want to position the rack fully. But yeah, we're gonna do the same process on the other side. Basically mount those panels the same way you see this side, only on the other side. Alright, so we got the load panels on both sides here. And now, I think what we're going to be doing, while still leaving this loose, is retract the cover so we can get inside the bed and install these load bars here. And it seems like what the kind of hardware we're going to be doing is these load bars can mount either way. They can mount this way or from the side. And appearing how our brackets look here, it looks like we're going to have to mount the load bars in and on the side slots. Now, how are we going to do that? Well, they provided a bag of hardware here that looks like T-slot, but it's longer rails that'll fit in the inside at these slots here. And then we're also going to use the first bag of hardware because it seems to thread in with a pair of washers. And that is going to be how we're going to mount the load bars in. Alright guys, so we got the load bar here. It doesn't really matter, it seems, which way you have it. We're going to be using these black T-slots, basically. They've got 3 ports, 3 threaded, basically like a long threaded nut that'll go in. And keep in mind, look at the shape of it. It's a certain shape. It's going to match the actual rail here, and I believe they go with the flat side, the full flat side facing towards you, into the rail like so. And then we're going to take our hardware and mount it that way. Now, specifically with this, I know they included some Loctite here. This is what we're going to use the Loctite on. I didn't bother to use the Loctite on any of the hardware, other than just regularly snugging everything up. But these, like my Prinzu rack and the Tacoma, you definitely want to Loctite these because these can move around a lot. So we're gonna go ahead and Loctite the hardware to mount these into the slots here. All right, guys, so the rack is on. The load bars are mounted. The screws and the hardware were in the load bars bag, believe it or not. If I would have just read it, I would have had the right bag the first time. It is a Allen head screw, a 4 mil for me, with a lock washer and a flat washer. There's gonna be 6 on each side, so 12 in total for each load bar. I Loctited mine so that these will not move at all. I really wanted to make sure that these do not move. My experience on my Prinzu racks, etc., they always move. So you're gonna have 3, 3, 3, and 3 on each load bar. Keep in mind to insert your slide nut so that these can actually mount properly. All right, having said all that, I'm going to get into mounting the tent right now. And as you can see, this is the Raptor, so it's a 5'5" bed. This is the short rack for the F-150s. This will fit the Condor tent perfectly. And now we just want to decide how close I want the tent to the cab of the truck or to the rear of the truck. And I think probably right in the middle would be fine. I'm gonna leave all this loose still. In my case, I'm leaving this loose. That way I can get the tent on, and these brackets loose anyway, so the whole rack can slide forward or back towards the rear of the truck. Once I get the tent on, mounted, and that will allow me to move the whole assembly back and forth wherever I want it, and then suck these bolts down. So with that being said, we're gonna get right into those steps right now. So yeah, there's no better feeling than opening up a new tent. Some of you guys know that the CVT tent I had was used. I got that from Overland. Huge shout out to him. Thanks for getting me set up in the rooftop tent gang. Anyways, but we went with a new design, a brand new tent. I really wanted the iCamper, the new 3.0, SkyCamp Mini 3.0. I wasn't able to pre-order it, and we have camping trips planned actually really soon, so there was no way I was able to order one of those, get it in time to install on the truck and go camping. So I elected to go for the roof nest. I've heard nothing but good things about roof nests. I have a few buddies of mine that actually run them, and that is why I elected to go with a roof nest tent. Yeah, it's basically like Christmas morning. I'm very excited to get this unwrapped and check this thing out. Alright guys, so I didn't film much just because I needed the hands to actually mount this tent up on the rack. And like I stated before, this is just the upTOP Overland mid-height Retrax rack install video. I'm not going to talk about the tent much, but as you can see, I've mounted it to the crossbars here. Let's go around and take a look at something. If you guys remember my water port install video, I actually mounted this to a Prinzu rack before, but here on the upTOP rack, I didn't want to mount this thing on the side here to get in the way of the tent, or I just didn't want to see the look of the tank going this way on the load panels for the upTOP rack. So I actually mounted it onto the crossbar here using the bracket here with the hardware, and I mount it through the hole of the water port on both sides there. There's an insert, a nut insert on the crossbar down on the other end there to mount this thing, and it's different and I like it because you can just use it right off the truck right here in the front here. So enough about that. The rack is really strong. The quality and the build quality is perfect. As you guys remember, if you guys have been on the channel for a while, you remember I had a front runner load bars kit for my Tacoma, and that lasted a good amount of time considering I had the over 200 pound CVT big boy tent on there. But this thing is built like a tank. I mean, the powder coat and the build quality is perfect, and you cannot beat the modular design of having the rack on the Retrax cover, and you can still open this cover up here and still use it while retaining the rack with the tent and everything else on it. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked. I got everything mounted on there. The tent is basically where I want it. I did a little, you know, of adjustment here and there. As you can see here, we have a 270-degree awning by OVS, Overland Vehicle Systems. That will be a separate upload. I didn't film the install on the truck, but I will film a review and actually like how I installed it with the brackets there, because that's a specific way that I did it. I want to show that off to you guys. I've opened this thing up. It's freaking awesome. Very excited to use it. So with that being said, that basically concludes the upload and the install of the upTOP Overland Retrax mid-height rack for your Ford F-150, or they make a bunch of applications for different kind of trucks and vehicles. So now I know how you guys now are probably wondering, you know, why are you missing a load panel now? Why did you take the load panel off for this portion here? And the reason why is, if you see the water port, now that I mounted the water port here, the piece here of the load panels is now hitting the water port. So now I'm going to modify this piece and just trim this piece off so that you just have the two bolt holes over here, and that won't hit the water port anymore. And as I stated to you guys before, I will film a complete review video, and basically the same as I explained with the awning, a review video and on the Condor Roof Nest Condor hard shell tent, how I installed it, what hardware I used, and basically what you get with the tent when you upon purchasing. Alright guys, that basically concludes this upload. Hope everybody enjoyed it as usual. Let me know in the comments if you guys are getting your rigs ready for camping this season. I'd be excited to learn what you guys are doing to your trucks as well. An overall simple, clean install. Modular, it works for me. It's probably one of the best designs I've seen in a long time, and I'm very stoked to using it. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel. Like I stated before, we have a lot of uploads coming. Uploads on the tent, uploads on the awning, and a few other things coming, as well as camping trips. I'm gonna include you guys as well. That concludes this upload. Take care. Have a good one.